so that we can start on time, close to time, right?
Yeah.
And get you out of here at a decent hour. My name is Kathy Turner. I'm a Big Country Master Gardener member, and we're going to talk about bulbs tonight, and Jackie is with me, Jackie Sledge, and we've had a busy day, so you're going to see us kind of tag team together, and it may not be smooth, but we'll cover the information. How's that? So,
that's right.
We're just going to talk about gardening with bulbs. We need to move together, right? Okay.
Gotcha.
It's like, my space.
I know, it's my space.
It's a Southern tradition. I don't know how many of you grew up with bulbs. There are many types of bulbs, but some of them are considered true bulbs. We talked about, you hear daylilies and irises, and they are all bulbs, but they're a different type of bulb. So if I advance it, will it work? Nope. Jackie killed it.
I didn't do it. It's up on mine.
Just tell it to come wake up.
Come on, wake up.
There we go.
There you go.
Yay! Technology. It's
I
so
know.
fun. Okay. What am I?
Huh?
This one, right? Advance? Yeah. No.
And the arrow.
There.
So why do you want to garden with bulbs? You can have lots of options, and you can plan your garden to where they bloom throughout the season, starting with the early spring, going into the late fall. The 5 types of bulbs to consider are the true bulbs, which is what we're going to talk about tonight: forms, tubers, rhizomes, and bulblets. So each have their own special feature and growing needs. Magic of each is all in their timing, and so we'll kind of talk about that. You plant them in the fall, and they'll bloom in the spring, and some you plant in the spring and they'll bloom in the fall. So, and there's also some ways to, there's some bulbs that you can force that are actually summer bulbs, but that you can force them, and you'll see them right now for Christmas presents, and that is the amaryllis, which is a true bulb. So, okay, there we go.
Oh.
Oops. What are bulbs? So bulbs are their own house. I don't know how else to describe them. Everything that bulb needs is contained inside of that bulb. Or everything that flower needs is contained inside of that bulb. And so it stores it, and then it produces the flower at the appropriate time, and then when it starts dying, it rejuvenates that bulb by when you let the foliage die naturally. You don't cut it, and then it will store it back for the next bloom. Okay, so this is, wait, never mind, sorry. So why would you do that? It talks about unpredictable climates, and you think about Abilene, Texas. We're a pretty unpredictable climate, so it's underground or it's protected, so it may be protected from the harsh, either the winds, the cold, the heat. So they're just under there, happy as can be, and waiting for their opportunity to come out. So we talked about true bulbs. Jackie and I tried to find an example of one of these to show you. But a tunicate is a papery covering like onions and tulips. So if you see this bulb, you see all the layers of the paper. if you think about an onion, when you peel an onion, it has all the layers. Those are, they say that tunicate is short for tunic, and it just means that it keeps that bulb protected. And the imbricate, it says that they do not have layers, and we read that they're very expensive, but I could not find an example to give you. They are slick, and they do, first of all, they're more expensive, and they have to be kept moist because they have a tendency to dry out very quickly. So again, I couldn't find an example of one to
Not
check.
for this climate if they dry out quick.
Huh?
Not for this climate if they dry out.
Well, once they're underground, if you water them, they'll stay. You just have to keep them
And
moist.
then, like you were talking about earlier with them, like dying or whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
like you let them die after, but they'll come back in a different season?
They'll come back in the season they bloom.
Okay, okay.
So-
So you plant them early, but then they only come in a specific.
So like right now, you would plant spring blooming.
Okay.
So
But then
like,
you'll see the results of it in the spring?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
I see.
So, and then the true bulbs have a basal plate, which, do I have a basal plate to show you? There's one right here. Do you want to open it? Sure. Okay. It's basically the flat part of the bulb, and it has roots. And so it also is an indicator, of how you would plant it, the way you plant it, the direction. So I read somewhere that if you don't know how to plant it, there's no clear indicator to plant them sideways, but don't plant them upside down because they won't grow. Pointy side up, yep. Right. But you know, I've had some bulbs along the way that I look at them and think, okay,
Sometimes they're not real clear.
yeah, so see this?
Side down,
Huh?
or just root side down.
Yeah, well, sometimes you don't see that though. See, these you see the root, so this is your basal plate right here. So. Okay. So, I keep going backwards. That doesn't make sense to me. So perennial bulbs are exactly what a perennial plant is. They come back year after year. We'll talk about a particular bulb that I have that blooms in the fall, and it's like one day the ground is empty, and the next day there's a green shoot that's about that tall, and then the next day you start seeing it develop, and it's actually the schoolhouse lilies. So if you've ever watched them, it's like they're magic. They just come up overnight. It's like, so, but perennials are come back year after year. It talks about how they store their energy back in the bulb for the next year. The same cycle is followed for the fall blooming bulbs. I will tell you that while this is true, tulips are not a perennial for us unless you want to dig them up and store them. They just do not naturalize here.
They don't get enough chill hours.
Right. So if you want to take your tulips, if you want to have a field of tulips, then dig them up, store them, chill them, and plant them again. So, but some examples are the daffodils, the tulips, the lilies, and the crocuses. So these are,
Refrigerator, but how long you can get them when you dig them up or what?
it says store in a cool, dry place, but you refrigerate them. I think it was 72 days, or it was a couple of months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks like you need to keep you put them on a paper towel and let them dry out, and then you put them in a bag, and then you store the bag in 50 to 60 degree, and, put them in your closet or someplace where it's dark and dry, and then they'll be fine. And then you'll need to put them in for chilling.
Yeah.
Before you
have to
plant
dry
them.
them out first.
Well, you'll dry them out when you take them up out of the ground. You'll dig them and separate them, and then let them dry, and then put them in a bag and keep them.
Make sure their leaves have stored the nutrients first.
Yes.
Yes, you don't
yes.
want to do, and that's one thing we'll talk about is people get impatient because they're not the most, a lot of them are not attractive when they're, when they're in their restoring stage. So you just have to be willing to let them die down and just, you might plant other flowers around it so that it's not as noticeable. But I had a crocus that I had for about 30 years, and then I had a yard man who decided that it needed to be weed-eated, and it was still in its green stage, and it's never come back. So anyway, the common bulbs for here are the daffodil, the crinum. Joe, I wish I'd had you bring a crinum bulb. Schoolhouse or oxblood. Yeah. Spider, naked lady lilies, which are pink. Onions, garlics, tulips, hyacinths, snowdrops. Oh, say it for me.
Allium.
Allium. I want to do all things with those L's. And amaryllis. So, Joe and I dug up some crinum lilies from a friend. They are huge. And they reproduce quickly. So if you have one year, you may have 3 in a couple of years. They're
Sell them to me because they're very expensive online.
yes.
They are very expensive.
So naturalization is a term that you hear about in bulbs. It's just basically bulbs will reproduce, or they'll reproduce, I guess is a good word for it. And so if they're left in their natural state, they will spread out over your yard. It says that some packets say good for naturalizing. These just said daffodils naturalize. So,
By naturalize, you mean like you can just leave them in there and just go a bunch?
over time they will do that. They'll spread. I'm going to show you a picture of that in a minute. This talks about making sure that you leave the ratty foliage up until it's gone, and then a workaround is to choose plants that bloom in the spring, and then again plant stuff around them to help with the covering that. Or it says,
Go ahead.
oh,
Sorry.
that's okay.
Oh, I just cut off the leaves of my amaryllis, so that's maybe why it died.
Okay, I'm getting it.
Could be.
So you let it just completely yellow.
Yeah.
Until they're yellow.
It was just, I took off the ones today, but they just turn papery and brown, and I just let them. Yeah, you just let them. This one's been in the greenhouse, so my dog's got a hold of the leaves today, but it's starting to come out for the winter, so.
My dog ran into my garden and stepped all over my watermelon plant and everything. And sat in it right picked 2 of my watermelons. Unripe.
Dogs can do that.
Yeah.
There's an English Mastiff.
I had a bull mastiff, so I know how big those are.
Yeah.
So, so when to plant bulbs? Spring and fall are your 2 seasons. So right now through, I would say, early December would be the latest I'd try to do them. Jackie and Dawn went to the bulb hunter. I brought his book for you if you want to look at it. But he talked about planting them as soon as you get them, which I thought was kind of interesting. He said don't delay. Just he lives
He lives in East Texas.
in East Texas.
But he said that so many times when you buy bulbs and you think, oh, these can't go out yet, and so you put them aside, and then you forget about them, and then they don't get planted at all, and then when you finally find them and they're all mushy and stuff, they're not even good. He said, so just go ahead and get them in the ground.
Even in the summer or something, if you
Well, a lot of places won't sell bulbs if it's not going to be a time. I know we have wanted to order bulbs for our plant sales, and we aren't able to get them because they won't ship them until it's your zone time to plant them.
Okay.
So it really does. They try to keep you on schedule so that way you remember to go ahead, get your bulbs and get them in the ground.
So, and you'll see a little bit later, but it says if there's a bulb you want and you find it and it's available, go ahead and order it because they run out quickly. They sell them quickly, so it's kind of interesting.
So once the bulbs are in the ground, do you water them at all?
Yes, yeah.
And mulch them.
Yeah.
Mulch is really good, you know.
So it does talk about not fertilizing them, although some people say fertilize them. There's actually bulb fertilizer, and some of them just said plant them like they're supposed to be planted, water them, cover them with mulch, and then just water them, especially if it's not rain or if it's dry. So
For those of us that have lived up north, when the ground is frozen, they aren't getting any more moisture. So they're in the ground and whatever moisture all winter long until the ground thaws.
yeah,
So you never water our bulbs up north.
really. Well, would the water reach them?
No.
Okay. Well, you have snow though, right?
Not till spring. Not till spring.
Oh, okay.
My question was more the ones I planted in the spring. So as it hit the summer, you know, they died, went back out of the ground. I think they're there, I don't know. But with the heat, do you water them? Is it spring?
Yeah, you'd want to water that area, especially, like I said, if it rains.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know, we didn't have any this summer.
Right.
So I need a little water.
And when you mulch, all the moisture
Yeah.
in the ground not evaporate as quickly.
Okay. Well, let's see if they come up next time.
so anyway, there's a chart, I don't know, did everybody get one? Okay. And it just shows what time they bloom. So obviously, if they bloom early spring, mid-spring, late spring, early summer, you would want to plant them now.
Forgive me, but I've only lived here 2 years. When does spring start here?
It's a day long, and it's somewhere between the last freeze and the first 100-degree day.
You're lucky, you might have like a week.
Yeah, we only have about 2 seasons here, and it's either hot or cold.
I will tell you, the crocus that is no longer, it says early spring. I took pictures of it with snow.
Yeah,
So-
crocuses can bloom in the summer.
Yeah, so probably February. And I have daffodils that will pop up.
They'll bloom in the snow too.
Yeah, mine will bloom maybe March. So that would be how I would define spring.
They're early spring,
yeah.
March-ish.
Well, Kathy, what happens if they never bloom? If they just green and green and green and they don't?
Well, I don't know. That's a good question.
Well, I know with irises, it may be if you haven't divided them,
Right.
because all bulbs need to be divided every 3 to 5 years at the most. And that way you get them replanted and they're happier.
So to divide them, you have to pull them back up like you would with the tulips?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, except that you go in and divide them and then replant everything at the same time.
Okay.
And you get multiple plants that way when you get them divided.
That's cool.
Okay.
How far apart do you plant them?
It depends on the variety. You know, some of the bulbs, it will tell you initially to plant them every 2 inches, or some will say every 4 inches. And so whatever that bulb was originally, you're going to continue planting at that same distance.
Is there a sun requirement? I guess they're all mostly sun plants, right?
Most of them.
Most of
I'm
them.
wondering if that's why mine haven't bloomed, it just says gilt.
Did you cut down the leaves before your daffodils? Did you cut the leaves down before?
This is for some irises that I
Okay,
planted, and,
okay.
The ones in sun still didn't bloom either. I got them from y'all somewhere, I can't remember. I think at the, when we were weeding.
And so they multiplied, and so I guess I could divide it by one year, but they still didn't.
Sometimes they don't bloom the first year, so,
A lot of people's amaryllis didn't bloom this year.
really.
And
The
they
one,
usually bloom.
the one at the zoo didn't bloom either, did it? So it may
I
have,
don't know.
I don't know what happened this year.
Either.
Does that go back to the cold hours? We have to have so many
I
cold
don't know
hours.
that an amaryllis is a cold hour plant. I mean, when you grow them in the house, they don't have any
Oh, that's true.
cool,
No chill.
no
Yes.
chill, yeah.
I heard something that you're supposed to like, after you see like the bulb emerge and stuff, like you're supposed to have like really loose ground and all that, and like you're not supposed to cover it up so it can get bigger, and like to like kind of remove some of the soil around it so that the bulb can get bigger. That's for onions, but like is that for the other kind of bulbs? Or I don't know if that's
No, because a lot of the bulbs tell you to plant them 6 to 8 inches, so you won't see the bulb. The amaryllis, yes, see how that one's sitting on top of the soil? I don't know if you,
Okay.
so it specifically tells you to leave most of the bulb, I think it's 2/3 of the bulb out. So, but the tulips, the daffodils, all those things, they usually tell you, like, if it says if the bulb is 2 inches, you plant it 6 inches 2 times, I think is what it is. So you would never see the bulb. So,
So that's not true across the board.
no, that is not true.
Now, that's one of the things about bulbs, and true bulbs and not true bulbs, is you really have to look at the variety you have, because they, like this, you know, if you planted it like you do most bulbs, that would be underground and it would, under the soil, and it would not grow. So, you know, you have to look at each variety differently.
Now, I have never planted these one. Has anybody ever planted an amaryllis in the ground? Okay, so you plant them a depth, right? You don't plant them on top of the ground?
So. It's been a while.
See, that would be the other thing is, if you're planting them in the ground, then they're going to be at a certain level.
Will it tell you that? Like, I don't have a garden, only.
Yes.
Will it tell you that, like, on the little package, or what, like, on the plant itself, will it say, this is how you do that? And so-
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
So fall blooming, like I said, if you go around town and you see yards are just, a lot of times it's just empty spaces that'll have red. They're oxblood lilies, and they call them schoolhouse lilies because they always bloom around the time school starts, so late fall. And they're just a very pretty little dainty lily. And then what else is in the fall that...
And they're very difficult to find.
yeah, I have some.
I know. She has some now, but she may not have them later.
So the crinum, it blooms midsummer, right? Even though this says fall. Is it blooming?
It's already bloomed this year.
Yeah, the critters bloom.
In the summer. And see, that shows it's a late, well, I guess it shows multiple places. So, okay, so here is your answer to your question about where and how to plant bulbs, or options include directly in the ground pots or both. And Jackie will talk about the both in a little bit. So you prepare the soil. You want to make sure it's loose, well drained, mixing any organic materials into it. Use a trowel. There's a trowel or other appropriate tools. I don't have a knife, but the reason that it talks about trowels, and I don't know if you can see this, but it has the inches on it. So it tells you if you're here, if your soil is right here, that your hole is 4 inches. If you need to dig it 6 inches, to see how far does yours go?
Mine goes to 4,
Okay.
and it doesn't go on up.
Okay. There's, I didn't bring my knife. There's a knife that has, I think, 8 inches on it. So you'll want something to measure it, either a tape measure or, yeah. So to get the proper proper depth, but, and that tells you if the bulb is 2 inches in diameter, then dig a hole approximately 6 inches deep. So, and usually your directions will tell you how much to dig them. I don't know what that was.
The last one is the one I think is so important, is how you plant them, or where you put them in the ground, because, you know, bulbs are meant to be random. You know, if you plant,
Naturalized.
naturalized, yes. But you see them in a straight line, and it doesn't look natural, because they don't grow in the wild that way. And when they start multiplying, they're going to be all over. So, you know, just think about how they would be naturalized. And that makes them so much prettier. You can put them in clumps, or you can just zigzag them. But that way they are a little more pleasing when you're looking at them.
Your PowerPoint doesn't have my pictures in it. Have we seen any pictures?
No.
Yeah, we saw, I thought we saw some. This is the one that,
Have we seen any pictures? No. Okay.
okay.
I was just, it was like, I kept waiting for pictures to come up, and it's like, I'm pretty sure I've
Well, let's
gone
see.
through them.
What do you mean by a drift? When you're planting bulbs?
A drift, it'd be like, you know, like you just plant them like that. You just plant bulbs where it's just a drift, or on like on a rock or somewhere where it looks like it's just drifting. So, and I have a picture.
Would it be safe to eat like onions you find? Because at the country club, there's just like random like onions or garlic or something I found. They're just really small right now.
In the ground? Are they little
And
plants?
also at the Fort Pham Lake, by my grandpa's house, there's also some just wild onions.
I wouldn't eat wild onions, but Rachel, you're the forager.
Unfortunately,
I enjoy the flowers.
Rich here today.
Do you see it with the pictures?
I don't have internet, so it is not pulling it
Okay.
up.
Well,
What's different too
your handout has the pictures, so there was a picture of the daffodils back where it under naturalization. That was a field of tulips that had been naturalized. They're just kind of random out there, and then the oxblood lily is actually in my yard. The picture of the ones in my yard.
Now you're back to the very beginning.
Okay.
Right. Because I was trying to find one with pictures in it, and I'm like, oh, no.
That's nice.
Mine has it, but would have to.
Oh, we could do the HDMI
Well.
cable to you if you want it.
Okay.
Okay.
How and where? Okay.
Okay. Yeah, on the
Okay.
lilies, yeah, you ask, how close to plant them, and it just depends on the size of the bulb. If it's a very small bulb and it's going to be a small plant, then they're going to be about 2 inches apart. And then some of the larger ones will be like 5 or 6 inches. And I'm glad you said it, plant it in with the pointed edge on, going to the top. We had someone call and say they had planted a bunch of bulbs and nothing ever happened. What did they do wrong? And so they asked if we would go out and look at it. So a couple of us went out and looked at it. And, of course, kind of did this, moved the soil very carefully because we didn't want to mess up anything that was coming up. And when we got there, she had planted all of her bulbs upside down. And, they'd been there for quite a while. And so, we replanted them. I never went back to see if it worked or not. But, that could damage
Let me
it.
see that. You see, we talk about plant them with the point up, but some of these bulbs, it's kind of hard to say. This one has the flat bottom, so obviously you know it. But if you had one and you thought, I don't know what that is, like I said, just plant them sideways so that they have a better opportunity to come up. They will,
Or you could put them in a glass of water and see if the roots come up.
I guess you could,
Like you do potatoes.
yeah. So, are you going to take that one? Are you going to start on that one?
Oh, I don't care. You go. I was just thinking, oh, well, you mentioned that one. Okay, did you want to?
Go ahead.
Okay, well, and then after you get the bulbs down in the soil, you want to cover them, the hole, fill the hole with the soil, backfill it, and then immediately water them, because they've been, dry, and so it's time for them to get a drink of water. And if it's hot and it's in the summer when you're planting, don't let them ever dry out, because if you do, they may not ever survive. So just check them all the time. The spring flowering bulbs, it says 2 to 3 inches of mulch. I mulch everything at my house. I just think I like the way it looks, but it also is good for almost any plant that you are. Just don't put it up against the stem or the tree trunk. You don't want a volcano, you want a donut. Leave a little area around it, because it can rot the stem if you leave mulch up against it. So be sure and do that. In the winter, you really want to mulch to help insulate the ground if you have your bulbs in the ground. Another option is to, Kathy had talked about it, remove the bulbs and overwinter them inside, and then you can replant them the next year. A lot of times that's more work than most people want to do, so they just buy new bulbs the next year and start all over. So that's...
On our amaryllis?
You
would do, I've never done that.
What, dig up the amaryllis?
Yeah.
I wouldn't dig it up once I planted it. I've not planted any, I've just left them like this, so.
The one that we planted out at the zoo, I don't know how many years ago that was, but it comes back every year.
That's what I was saying, I've
And
never
we never do anything to it.
Some bulbs maybe
Mulch
so,
it.
I just wonder, but
Yeah.
not on that amaryllis.
So, back to the pictures there was a picture earlier in there of the tulips. I don't know if y'all saw that bed of tulips. That was a picture I actually took at the Arboretum. If you go to the Arboretum in Spring Blooms, if you've never been, plan it. They plant 500,000 bulbs, 350,000 of them are tulips. And they dig all those tulips up every year. I don't know what they do with those tulip bulbs. I'd be curious. But it's spectacular. If you hit it right, you've got tulips, you've got daffodils, you've just got hyacinths. It's just, it's an overwhelming thing. Plus, they are able to grow azaleas, so obviously that is not something we can grow. So if you can hit the trifecta, the azaleas and the bulbs and everything, it's just incredible. So, but like I said, tulips can be grown, just depends on your dedication and what you're willing to do. Although there is one tulip that the bulb hunter says, and it was an elusive tulip. It's called the red Texas tulip. I tried to buy some, and they're sold out. So, but I'll keep watching his website and see.
What was the name of it?
Hmm?
What was the name of it?
He calls it the Texas tulip. It's a red tulip, and it will perennialize in West. I don't know about West Texas, but in East Texas he has it. So.
Where do you order your bulbs from? 'Cause you
Oh, there's different places. Southern Bulb Company is one, simply because he carries most of the bulbs that will grow in the South. But I've ordered them from Breck, I think is one of them, and Holland. Yeah, but those are the places that they won't ship them until it's time, and I mean, they have a lot of pretty bulbs, they have a lot of tulips and daffodils, and they have every imaginable variety that you can want. But I don't know, straight from Holland, I don't know how they do here. I I guess, okay, but,
Yeah. Another option, we talked about digging tulips, but if you have bulbs, tulips included, that you want to bring in to overwinter them, the other option is to plant them in a pot and then bury the pot. And then you can just dig up the entire pot, bring it inside, and then next year take the pot and put it back outside. Then you don't have to worry about drying the bulbs and doing the other work to keep them alive, but that is an option. There are several things that if you want to dig it up and move it, it is a good option. Now lasagna, we hear about lasagna gardening, but you can do bulb lasagna either in the ground or in pots. And so I was just going to kind of explain. It needs to be it doesn't have to be this large, but it needs to be at least 12 inches tall and 12 inches wide. And you start out with just your regular soil and put, several inches in the bottom of your pot. And then you take the largest bulb, which is the latest bloomer, and you fill that bottom with that bulb. And then you add another couple of inches of soil, and you take the next size, the second latest bloomer, and add it. And then you add more soil. And then you put your early bloomer on the very top and cover it with soil. Now, there are two options that you can do at that point. You've got it in a container like this. Cover it with mulch until they start coming up. And then, if you don't want to do that, I was reading an article the other day. It says you can take pansies or some of the winter annuals and just fill your pot with that, so you've got a pretty pot, and then your bulbs will start coming up later. And I've always wondered how bulbs know where to go if they're on the very bottom and it's covered up with all the soil and lots of other bulbs. And they said that they will worm their way up and they will come up.
so in your handout, you have a picture of a cut pot that will show you what those look like.
Right. And it was a smaller pot than this. And I watched them plant it, and she put in 46 bulbs. So you can just imagine how gorgeous it is. And so you've got a variety of colors. You can do almost anything with it. Okay, then the bulbs, the big process, water it, and then of course add the mulch. But these are some that you could do. Your tulip would be on bottom because it's a larger bulb, and then the daffodils, and then a crocus on top. And they will be this pot would be blooming with bulbs from early spring through summer. Then another variety would be hyacinths, narcissus, and snowdrops. And so, again, the large one on the bottom, the hyacinth, and then go all the way up to the snowdrops. And then another combination, if you had different colors or different textures or different whatevers that you like, just go with what you like. But alliums, muscari, and anemones. Now, muscari is actually like the grape hyacinth, and I love grape hyacinth. So I know my mother-in-law she had irises and she had grape hyacinth. She had beautiful purple beds, and it was just gorgeous. So every time I see this, and I bought these the other day, I thought I would do a purple pot, with things that she had, so that make my husband feel good. Because he thinks I don't ever listen to him about what he wants. So, you can just use your imagination. And I thought, well, that was so smart if you planted your pansies on top of all these bulbs, because you would be watering the pansies, and then you'd be sure that you were watering your bulbs too.
So you're just leaving that on your back patio or wherever? Okay, all winter.
So it doesn't make any difference how big the pot is, because if it's a bigger pot, it's going to be a foot down there.
Yeah, no, I would not go deeper than this. I would not even go this deep. When I plant mine, it's gonna be a little shorter. This one was empty, so that's why I brought it. But one thing that, it's important to think about drainage in your pots, make sure that you've got good drainage. And you can move these around if you have to, if it's a pot. If it gets too cold, if it gets too hot, whatever, needs a little more sun, your pansies do. But the mulch is always a good idea. Even if you plant pansies, I would still mulch around that too.
I was just going to tell y'all, as I stand here and itch, it says that hyacinths can be irritating to the skin. That was a hyacinth bulb I touched, and it's like, I am itching now. So just read that and know that some bulbs will cause skin irritation.
Look at the warnings on the package. Now this does not have, you can do this very same thing in the ground. In fact, I can't think how many years ago it was, we did that at the corner of Swenson House. They wanted something that would be blooming for a long time, so we decided to do a lasagna layering. And we did tulips, and we did daffodils, and I can't think what the top one was. And then we also planted some seeds that would come up later. And the flowers, the first bloomers had come up, and they were just blooming like crazy. And we had snow, and I don't know if you remember, there was a picture on the front page of the newspaper that they took of the flowers in the snow, and that turned out to be our lasagna garden that we had planted on the corner. So this is a fun thing. You don't have to do pots. You can do this very, very same thing in the ground, and it will be as successful.
And the Arboretum does that when they plant those 500,000 bulbs. They do that same thing. So.
Good question. With all that going on, do you need to really keep them fed? Because it seems like they'd all be competing for nutrients and food.
I have never fed mine. I am not, but they've always lasted.
Okay.
They say that's the beauty of the bulbs, is they're self-contained. They create all of that for themselves. Like I said, I read some articles that say that there is fertilizer and to use that. Others said just the mulch or a composted topsoil.
I wondered a fair amount with all of those bulbs all the way through.
Yes, it does require water.
Yeah.
Whether you're doing it in the ground or in a pot.
Yeah.
Because you have to be sure that these bulbs on the bottom don't dry out. However, if you're in good soil, that water is going to go down, and it will keep everything.
And these are all spring bloomers, so you would do it in the fall, right?
Yeah. And if you notice, hang on a minute, Lucy, if you notice when you go to the store right now, to Lowe's and Home Depot, this is what they have.
Right.
They typically do not carry the spider lilies or the things like that. Those are more from specialty stores.
Too much, they'll rot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They will.
Yeah.
They will.
You want to water them well when you put them in, and like I said, you just water them. If you hadn't had any rain or moisture, I would water them, but I wouldn't water them every day or every week. So.
They're very easy. If you want to do an easy garden, do some bulbs.
Yeah.
They really are.
I have some daffodils that are on the side of the house, and I never water those. I mean, what they get is what they get. So, yes, Lucy.
If you put them in a pot like that, do you have to put some more soil all the time, or?
Well, this is going to last this season, because your bulbs are there and they will start coming up. Now, in the future, you may have to add some more, but you'd also need to make sure that it's all going to come back, depending on what bulbs you planted.
Okay, so you don't just leave them there, you still have to dig them up at the end of the season then?
A lot of these you can leave in there. Tulips, though, if you use that as your base, they are going to need to come up. So I have not planted tulips on the bottom of anything for that reason. I have planted tulips in pots. And then just, because they're easier to handle than trying to dig up my clay soil to get to some bulb.
And I guess it's in the early winter or the late winter, you'll start seeing tulips in the stores, especially like at United and their little nursery and their little flower centers. You'll see potted tulips or hyacinths or something like that. You can plant those, but I don't know the tulips would come back. So, but you can process them just like you could anything. But you can enjoy a tulip in a pot. So.
Okay, on bulb care, the before, the during, and the after. Choose bulbs that are fun to the touch. Now,
I'm not touching those again. Not touching those again.
No touching. But you can feel if they're already mushy. Now, I give everything the opportunity to live. So I may have mushy bulbs, and I will plant them. And we planted a whole pot full of caladium bulbs out at the demo gardens a year ago. And they were some that had been overlooked for at least a year. We had had the caladium bulbs and we didn't sell them, and they got put up on a shelf and they lived on the shelf for a while. And so I decided, let's go ahead and plant these and see what happens. And we had the most gorgeous pot of caladiums out there. They were spectacular. But if you go by all of the rules, those would have all been thrown away because the paper was coming off and it was,
They were mushy.
They were mushy. They were beyond their life expectancy, but yet they lived. So I'm notorious for saying give everything a chance to live.
On the other hand, we had some daffodil bulbs that were not planted the first year, and they were not in good shape. And we planted them, and they did bloom that year, but they did not come back the second year. So, would you? I guess so. Yeah, they were spent after that one year. So.
Where is the demo garden you mentioned?
It's in front of the extension office. Yes, and we've got 4 gardens there. First one is Easy Care, the second one is a rain garden, third one is a backyard garden, which you'd see in the backyard, and then the fourth one is an accessible one and has the raised beds, the rings. So we try to put things in those that, like the first one is Easy Care plants. They're gonna make it.
We have cotton growing out there,
Yes,
by the way.
we do.
If you've never seen cotton growing, there you go.
Yes. Okay. And then, of course, choose a sunny spot. Make sure your soil drains well. Water occasionally if there's no rainfall, especially during hot weather, and then mulch the top of the ground. That is just what we should live by with everything. It's just mulch, mulch, mulch. That just, it's wonderful. And so it does re-emphasize that once the bulb has finished blooming, don't cut it back. Let it go its life cycle. It's not particularly attractive, but it's still doing nutrients into the bulb, and we want to make sure it has all the nutrients it needs to overwinter.
Okay. So this whole book, the Bulb Hunter, this is a lot of his book is about foraging. Now you can purchase the bulbs, as we've talked about, but it's about foraging. And so if you're out at a cemetery, if you see an abandoned house, if you see an empty lot with a bunch of blooming oxblood lilies, that's a place that you might obtain bulbs. But the key is to make sure you find out who owns it and if they're okay with you digging them. The cemetery is a little different. Obviously, you don't want to dig around somebody's grave that it looks like they've planted them intentionally. A lot of times people planted bulbs and they have naturalized and spread way out, and so those might be something that you could take. But make sure you have permission if it belongs to somebody, and be respectful and cover up any holes that you make when you dig them. Rachel is our forager. She likes to forage from ditches and every place. So have you found any bulbs?
No, I've looked.
Yeah.
But I have never found any. On the place, the next time I go to Austin, Fred might have some.
I forced some Leatris, or some people call it gate feather, but they didn't come up for me.
Really? Rachel foraged some
I've heard
Leatris.
you're supposed to let them dry out completely before you plant them again.
There is a bulb that I had one and I lost it. What do they call it? Cemetery lily? Do you remember? And apparently it's a real tiny little lily that comes up, and but like I said, I lost mine. I planted it, I think, in the wrong spot. I planted it in too much shade, and I think it bloomed one year and that was it. So, I can't remember, there's an actual name for them. Do you remember it? I found it, but I'll see if I can.
Called them cemetery lilies.
Yeah, I'll find
My
it.
grandmother did, and she knew everything. And she had this gorgeous bulb.
Do bulbs tend to weather the western sun, afternoon sun, better than others? Not necessarily.
Or you mean the flower or the bulb itself?
I guess not the bulb, the plant itself in general. Is it
Well,
early to get for
by the time when they bloom in the spring, the sun's not going to be an issue. The fall, spider lilies and the oxblood lilies, those are the ones that bloom in the fall. And mine is more in the shade.
Well, the Easy Care Garden out in front, down by the roses, we have irises, and I know they're not true bulbs, but they are considered a bulb of sorts, the rhizomes. And then there are some on the other end, and they have been there for years. And of course, they get the sun, the wind, the traffic, the everything, the ambient heat from the sidewalk and the parking lot, and they have done really well. In fact, one of them's blooming now again. Third time this year it's blooming.
It's a rebloomer.
So it's happy.
Amaryllis out at the zoo gets full sun, right?
It does.
So, and that would be summer sun. So,
Do you have any experience in gladiolus? This is the second year my big, nice foliage and no bloom.
I haven't. We have another master gardener that planted a whole bunch of them, and I never heard. I think the grasshoppers got all of his.
There's a house over by AC that has huge gladiolus.
The bulbs are big and happy, but
Yeah,
no
they
bloom.
get flowers.
Well-
We have some at Swenson House, right? Or is that not
They have hollyhocks.
Hollyhocks, oh, I'm sorry, I'm
Yeah.
getting those mixed up.
Yeah.
Hollyhocks, try those.
Right. They look a lot like, and they're tall and skinny. They will love the sun and the wind.
Yeah, I'm not seeing gladiolus here in Texas.
No, I have never been there.
I've never grown them. My mom grew them in Dallas, but the weather is just so different in Dallas, or not weather, but just the soil and everything. So there's things that you can grow.
My mom also had those in Midland.
She had gladiolas, and they were okay.
There's a secret we just don't know.
That's surprising. Is there?
I mean, she would just throw things out there and they would grow.
Wow. And it may be a specific variety that, just need to research and find out. My neighbors planted some gladiolas, and all I saw was some tall stalks. I never saw flowers. Yeah, so. Anyway, that is definitely one way to find them. This it gives you the link to this, the link is actually this printout. The extension office was nice and printed it out for us. This was the only one that we could find that kind of covered all of the types of bulbs and gave you a guide. So I hope that is helpful to you, but that's that link. It was an interesting, it's called Longfield Gardens. I had never gone to them. So Pinterest was what led me there. Pinterest is a... All right. Okay, oops, sorry, here. Bulb theft.
How many of y'all have had bulb theft?
You have a picture in your handout that it is one of the worst offenders, and it's squirrels. So if you have squirrels, they will dig them up and take them.
Well, at least you don't have ground fogs and the moles and the bulbs.
Well, we do out at Maple Street, yeah, some property we have, yeah. Joe tracked them. So those little critters, they go under and they cup up in some raised beds. You know, I've never seen anything like it, and have little underground paths. So
They are very destructive.
So
Would it be legal to shoot them with a pellet gun or like a 22?
no,
You just don't say anything to me.
it's not legal. So don't let me.
Don't
let the cops find out.
Don't tell anyone, that's basically.
My house has 10 pecan trees in the front yard, so I have a lot of squirrels. And used to, we would see the man that lived across the street, would see the top of his head, and he would literally be shooting those squirrels. So, but
Well, some bulbs are poisonous. I was reading about the Amarias because that's what I have in our lot. And I was going to move them closer to the house, out of the lot that we have there. And I have a puppy, and I'm worried people dig them up.
and eat them, yeah.
Eat them.
Yeah.
They talked about all the different things you have to do.
I didn't think about that, but that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean,
Some of them are poisonous, or
like you
parts of them
mentioned,
would
read the
Yeah.
read the
on
label.
your specific bulb. It may not be all of them, but I tell you, on Amaryllis, because I was reading on those
Yeah.
recently, and I don't know whether I'll move them.
There are actually things that you can buy, Jackie referenced them, but they're boxes and you can plant your bulbs in them and it will help protect them from squirrels and ground squirrels. Yeah, chicken wire. I have to use chicken wire a lot of times just on my annuals because they will dig in the pots to find pecans that they planted last year or plant pecans, one or the other. So, but just cover that area until it's frozen, use natural squirrel repellents, which, or set up a squirrel feeding station, which I would never do, but it is an option, so. Tools of the trade, Jackie, we're on the downhill slide.
Yes. First of all, buy good bulbs, you know, things that you don't have to spend a dollar or two extra. However, we're all known to buy some that they're on the clearance rack because I can make these grow. That's what we always say. A dibber, you know, to get down into the soil, a hand bulb planter, and this is one that you just go down into the soil and it's going to make a hole for the bulb. Now, when I bought this, I thought, well, hey, that would be really good when I'm doing my bulbs. And then I thought, no, that would be really good when I'm planting my 4-inch pots of whatever I have. So, you know, I may be living out there with my little thing trying to make my holes that way.
They make those that catches the soil. You put it down and you squeeze and bring it up and it brings the soil with it. So
mine was not that fancy, and that's on the list. I'll probably get it for Christmas.
they also make those standing.
Standing, where
Yeah.
you use your foot and it will make the hole and you can bring it up. They have a drill. It looks like an auger, and it goes on it's just a bit that fits on your drill, and you can dig your hole like that. And of course, always have a kneeling cushion and bulb planting baskets. Trowels, you can never have too many trowels, right?
That's right.
So, there are so many different kinds, different sizes, different shapes, different materials. So you just have to find what you like, what you're comfortable with. And then there are some bulb planters. Now, I brought a tool.
And both of those are links to
Yes,
to tools.
Yeah. We have a master gardener who is a daylily expert. I mean, she is amazing. And in fact, they did a hybridized daylily and named it after her.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, I can't find it. I've been looking for it because I thought, we should have one in one of our gardens, but I have not been able to find it. And this is a daylily splitter. She says she thinks you can use it on any kind of bulbs. So when you go down like this into where the bulbs are, and then like that, it's going to split your bulbs apart. And that way you don't have to use a knife or an axe or some weapon. And this one actually has a place you can put your foot. This is tall enough that you put it down, put your foot on it, and then you can bring it, split it that way. They do make them in 3 sizes. The kind like this, all the way to just a small one if you're doing it on the table. So it's kind of a cool tool. Yes?
Would that be for like 2 bulbs are close to each other, or for one bulb, like,
Well, it's where they've kind of grown together. They've started to multiply. And you would put that down in where those bulbs are, and then when you do it like that, it's going to split them apart.
So that they have more space for.
Yes, and then you replant them.
Okay.
So Joe can talk to you about splitting bulbs. If you can actually split some bulbs, you just have to have some of the base, the basil, right? To make sure you have a little bit of that to plant. But you can take,
You can take one bulb and do what we call bulb chipping, as long as you get part of that tunic on
that basil,
part of
yeah.
the bottom part. And you can, depending on the size of the bulb too, you can get many bulbs out of one bulb.
Interesting.
It's called bulb chipping.
And Dawn did this. She took bulbs that she got at the presentation, and you can see that she set them in a glass bowl. There's just rock, right?